Hey there, everybody. Happy Wednesday. It is a Wednesday when I'm going to do a wrap up. So, what does that mean? I'm going to review some books. And if you saw the thumbnail beforehand, you know that it's 9 books today. I actually have 2 more that I finished yesterday, but I'd already made the thumbnail and it's kind of complicated to fit them all on. So, I'm going to save those for next time. Ooh, moving a little fast this morning. And I noticed that StreamYard did an update and everything looks a little weird this morning because they like to do that. Anyway, I'm Margaret Pennard. I'm a historical fiction and fantasy author and an eclectic reader. So we're going to hear about all different kinds of books today and hopefully some that you like and that maybe you feel like picking up in the near future. So if that is your jam, subscribe to the channel for more. The first chunk I'm going to do is books for Agitation August. So this is an intensive series. I normally do about 2 videos a week, but in August I'm going to do every weekday and I'm going to have a guest and we're going to talk about a special book to them that got them agitated. So in preparation, I have read most of these books and I'm in the process of preparing discussion questions. We're going to have contests for book gift cards. It's going to be a lot of fun. So if you are curious about Agitation August, check out the kickoff thing that I put in the description and check out the graphics that I've put in my YouTube community tab on Blue Sky and on Instagram for information about who will be there because I'm very excited to host them all. So I've read 4 books for Agitation August as Buddy reads, sort of. I'm doing it on my side, they're doing it on their side. And I've got 5 books that are mood reads because I am a mood reader. And then I've got one in between that is a slow reread. So I will go through all of those in sequence, just so you know what is coming. Hello, Anita. Welcome, welcome. Hello, Ven. Heidi, 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 ho. All right, so we're going to start with the Agitation August books. First one up is called Emergency Sex and Other Desperate Measures. And it's got 3 authors, and it was published in 2004, I believe. So this is the book for my discussion with Marion at Writer in Rwanda. And it's kind of cool because in this book, they talk about some of the people's experiences in Rwanda. And what this book is about from 20 years ago now is 3 different folks and their experience as aid workers in the decade from about 1990 to 2000. So a lot happening, and 2 of them are American. One of them is a New Zealander, Kiwi, and they're basically putting in rotating journal entries about what they're facing, what they're feeling, the difficult decisions they had to make. And this is the book that shook up Marion when she started her residence in Rwanda. So pretty cool. And we had a great discussion. Marion is the one person who I had a pre-recorded discussion with. So we already had it, and I know, and I have to edit. So I'm very excited to edit this and put it up. I'm going to give you dates for all of these in case some of these books trigger your interest and you want to be sure to watch that day. So this is going to be August 22nd, which is a Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific. So I'll do that for all of these. I should have had it lined up as a banner, but you'll have to listen to my words. So that was the first book. I rated it 5 stars. I studied international development and knew a lot of the shocking things in there, but the way that they relate it as personal experiences was very compelling. And also the political rollout in that time I was not aware of. I had not studied yet. So it was much more revealing than I thought it might be from someone with my experience, and will probably be very revealing to someone who has not considered that area at all. And bonus, it's a relic of history now because not that anyone in here was in USAID. They were in the UN peacekeeping programs and civilian programs. But I had looked into USAID programs and know people who worked in them. And I'm really saddened by the fact that it is no longer, and that's a huge loss for America and for other places. Hello, JC. Welcome. Oh my. Yeah, they gave it a very salacious title, but it's hardly about the sex. It's about the emotional experience of trying to bring help to other countries while you are struggling to learn what your role is in those very difficult circumstances. So excellent, excellent book. Highly recommend. The next book I have for Agitation August is from my Kindle. And so I have to share the screen for that one. Let's pop this up here. I'm going to put this here because I made it big. We'll see if that works for everybody. So Emergency Sex. The next one is one of the authors I was ashamed that I had not read yet, and that is Octavia Butler. So Parable of the Sower is one of her later works, I believe, and it's part of a duology. As far as I know, there's only 2 books in this. There's Parable of the Sower and Parable of the Talents. It is a sci-fi fantasy sort of genre book. And it is very real, a very real dystopia, because in it we have someone who is about 15 years into an apocalyptic showdown in America. There are walled communities, there is violence on the streets, there is corrupt police that are taking advantage, and there are very scarce resources. And gosh, if that doesn't sound like what we're tumbling into right now, I don't know what does. It was written in 1993, however. So, like, think about 1993 to now. That's like 30 years. Like, she's predicting, Octavia Butler, genius, predicting what we'd be coming to with the lack of cohesion in our society. So I felt this was very close to reality. And the thing that is the guiding light in this book was very hope-giving. So if it's not a doom and gloom book, if you are staying away from books that make you feel like the world is ending, and dystopians sometimes do that, I would say Parable of the Sower is not that kind. It's actually really positive. When I read it, I thought that the main character, who has this idea and a mission and goes after it, is a very proactive and insightful role model for the dystopia we find ourselves in today. So loved this book, 5 stars. So glad I finally read Octavia Butler. And the person who chose this book for their Agitation read is Dee Dee from Brown Girl Reading. So she is going to be on as my first guest, which means August 4th. So we have a kickoff on the 1st on Friday, and then the first guest is Monday the 4th. So that is Dee Dee with Parable of the Sower, 10 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time. So hopefully you'll join for that and tell us all how you love the book. And if you've read it a long time ago, we can refresh your memory with some of the greater points, because I think this is going to be a really fun discussion. Hi, Jim. Welcome, welcome. Hey, Emma. Hello, hello. Jim says, I have Parable of the Sower on my Kindle. Yes, this is the Kindle read for me too, which is why I was holding up. That's what this is. It's like a book cover thing for the iPad. I've only read Blood Child, but hope to read some more, which I think is a different series. Is that Octavia's Brood series? She has several that are pretty famous, and I'm not sure I'll get them all right. But yeah, I'm at Kindred is on my list. I have that one in paperback. So definitely, once I get Agitation August sorted out, we'll be very excited to read that. Although I'm prepared for them to be very different, because people's reviews of Kindred have like given me a very different vibe, which is why I was very surprised going into this one, because it felt very different from that. So anyway, I got them a little confused, but I was very happy. Parable of the Sower, 5 stars. And like I said, Dee Dee will be on August 4th, 10 a.m. The next book I had is actually written by a person I know. Oh, okay. Her male pregnancy book. Oh boy. I hope Richard doesn't come on at that moment. Okay, so the next book I read for Agitation August, I can take this down here, is Social Justice for the Sensitive Soul. Sensitive Soul. And it was written by Dorcas Chang Tozun. And my connection to Dorcas is that when I was in AmeriCorps in 2003 to 2004, I worked with Dorcas. She was one of our supervisors. I think we had one manager and two supervisors, and it was really neat in the author's note or acknowledgments to hear her name, the other supervisor, the manager, the names that I recognize. It was pretty cool. So she has been in social justice sectors for her career of like 20 years plus by now. And she wrote this book, which is about changing the world in quiet ways. Basically, it has a section about sensitive souls, which is her phrase for like highly sensitive people. If you've read any of the books or resources about that condition or set of conditions, and how being that type of person with those needs and skills, and then being in the space where it's often very difficult to operate with those needs and skills, she has sort of taken her learning and put it into this book. So she had some guiding lights of like questions and what to ask yourself about what work you should be doing. And then she has like examples of fields where you can have those needs and skills and succeed very well because you're working in tandem with people with different needs and skills. So I thought it was not groundbreaking to me. It was none of the like, oh my gosh, mind-blowing stuff, but it was very nice to see someone saying like, this is my experience, you're not alone. These are examples and this is what happened to me. And if you're someone who needs a little nudge or someone who is still interpreting this and seeing whether or not it's right for you or it's your designation, that's what this book would be good for. So I'm going to be talking about this with my friend Leslie from Books, Gers, and Purrs, and she will be on the channel on Thursday, August 7th, and special time for Leslie because of her work schedule. So it'll be 7 p.m. Pacific Daily Time. So evening chat with Leslie from Books, Gers, and Purrs. And the thing is, we were going to do this as a buddy read in July, and then it got changed to talking about it as the Agitation book because she has so many books with her readathon commitments right now that she couldn't like add another one, but I really wanted to include her in this series. So we're going to be talking about this, even though it's not a book that shook her up earlier in her life, but we'll talk about it in context of the work that we're both doing, maybe our Booktube channels, and how we reacted to the advice that Dorcas gives. So August 7th. Yeah, August 7th. And the last book for Agitation August that I finished. Oh, did I already get through 1, 2, 3? There's a fourth one. What's the fourth one? Oh, okay. So I need this again. Scroll, scroll, scroll. There we go. So the fourth book for Agitation August is Hell Followed With Us. Now, I have two books with this person. So this is one, and we'll see which one we end up gravitating more towards talking about. But Hell Followed With Us by Andrew Joseph White. Give me a little bit more space here. There we go. It's by a trans author, and it's another dystopian thriller, but this one takes the religious angle. So Parable of the Sower is more everything is chaos. It reminded me a lot of Dry and what was the other one? Let me see if I wrote it down in my notes. I did not. Dry, and what was the other one? Anyway, dystopian books where they're discussing the immediate, suspenseful danger, risk, sort of like thriller-esque, right? This definitely had a lot of action. It is a sci-fi horror, meaning like it's dystopian. There's a lot of blood and gore, and it's like splatting on the screen, which once you get over, like there is a bigger message, obviously. And I'm very curious to talk with Ven about this one. So my guest that chose this book along with 1984 is Ven from Ven's Corner, which is Ven's_corner on the channel. He'll be on Tuesday, August 26th at 10 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time. And I'm curious about this book and how it shook him up because It's a dystopian thriller that feels, again, not quite as close as Parable of the Sower, but maybe another decade or two. There's a breakdown. It's set in Pennsylvania, and there's a religious cult that's taken over and is trying to exert their will to cleanse the earth of people who are not worthy of the rapture, basically. And what they're up against is like an LGBTQ youth center supports thing that was there a couple years before and has managed to survive. And we see them up against each other and like a few key characters moving around. And asking interesting questions. So I thought this was really thought provoking, and was glad that Ben got me to read it. There we go. And if you're curious, and if you've got a wrench, you can click "Take me to your channel" or "Take me to your leader" and go subscribe to Ben right now. So again, what did I say? 26th. Yes, 26th of August, which is a Tuesday at 10 a.m. Pacific for me. So, and I still have the 1984. I've never read 1984. I got the graphic novel version because I thought that would be novel. So we'll have both of those to play off of. And actually, Leslie may have another book to talk about, which I won't have read, but I will really try to ask her to incorporate. So very excited about these and all the people. Ooh, what's this? What's that? All the people that will be like bringing the energy. I'm just very excited about this event, so I hope you'll come. Other things about Agitation August is that we're doing a drawing for the book card, the gift cards at the end. So if you watch an interview, every person in an interview will at some point tell us their fancy word. And I've put those on bingo cards. So if you attend all the interviews, you can listen for the word and mark it off on your bingo card. I've got 3 possibles and you choose one. And then if you get like a stripe of 4 in a row, then that means that you can enter to win $25, $50, or $75 worth on a bookshop.org site through local bookstores, of course. So there we go. That is your extra incentive to tune in, give us great questions, and interact with more channels that are trying to promote critical reading and critical thinking, which is not as commonsensical as might be thought. So that is my little effort in my community with you all. So hopefully you'll join me for that. Okay, so in between this and the mood reading books, I'm going to take a little side tangle to the slow read along. So this is really part and parcel with Agitation August and Truth and Reconciliation for the Climate. All of these are about trying to foster community and have discussions so that people think about choices that they're making or are being made for them. And this book is a fantastic example of how to resist the choices that are being made for you. It's called How to Do Nothing: Resisting the Attention Economy by Jenny Odell. And Grace at Books and Cooks is hosting a readathon that is a slow readathon. So it's 1 chapter per month so that we can really like digest carefully and think about these things with plenty of space. So we're not just whizzing through, right? I've already read this book a couple years ago, and so I'm doing a reread along with Grace. And this month, July, is chapter 4. So that is about not the refusal. It's something exercises in attention is the name of the chapter. And it's really about that resisting piece. So if you're curious, I hope you can get this book at a library or maybe as an ebook that's not super expensive because it's really interesting. It's a series of essays and they feel kind of wandering, but they do circle back to the same points and find threads that come through, which I really appreciate. So she's an artist living in California and she teaches performance art and like different types of art that are like modern interpretation. So she's really keyed into art, significance, and perception. And then she uses those skills to talk about how our attention, because we pay attention to art, is being hijacked and how we can take that back. So chapter 4 is called Exercises in Attention. And that is like a good word because you have to exert some effort. You have to like go to the gym for your mental exercises to get it back. So let's see. Change how you see. So a lot of her examples were about changing how you see things in life. So once your eyes are open to a certain trend or um, twist, like you can see things differently. And art does that for Jenny. So, oh, this is my planner. This is not the book anymore. Never mind. I took notes in my planner, so that's what I'm reading from. Yeah, you should definitely get it. Like I said, it's not all social science stuff. It's very personal memoir plus other research taken in plus conversations with people. It's really nice. It's like a nature memoir but with art and social science. Hey Jack, what's up? Okay, so what do I have to say? We've got a few quotes here. Page 107, the Danto Critic. So I have positive and negative things that I note in these readings. So I like to share them both because that's what critical thinking is about. So she's talking about critic, and I'm gonna find him. Oh, okay. So here's where I can't really follow people who are big on philosophy and theory and art because I am not immersed in that myself. And it's a I don't know if I'm using this word right, by a dialectic that I'm not versed in. So it just feels like flummery. And maybe that is a familiar feeling to you as well. But here, she says the earlier let me rewind. When the critic and philosopher Arthur C. Danto wrote about the piece, which is a piece of art, he called it Newman's first real painting. The earlier works, though they were technically paintings, were for Danto merely pictures. So he's critiquing someone's paintings by saying they're pictures. This is the first actual painting. Now, what is the difference, right? To me, this is semantics. An actual painting, as opposed to a picture, confronts us in physical space. And here's the flummery part that maybe you can make more sense of. Newman's new paintings are objects in their own right. A picture represented something other than itself. A painting represents itself. A picture mediates between a viewer and an object in pictorial space. A painting is an object to which the viewer relates without mediation. It is on the surface and in the same space as we are. Painting and viewer coexist in the same reality. Okay, so I'm going to need more help going through this because this whole like the same reality, the representative value, that is kind of stuff that I haven't had someone conceptualize for me and it doesn't really make sense. So that's where I need help. But now I've got a positive. So, and it actually relates to Parable of the Sower. On the next page, she says the paintings that are confronting you in the space, the ones that she says are more representing themselves rather than something else and trying to just copy it. These paintings taught me about attention and duration, and that what I'll see depends on how I look and for how long. It's a lot like breathing. Some kind of attention will always be present, but when we take hold of it, we have the ability to consciously direct, expand, and contract it. And I thought that was really cool because it related to Parable of the Sower. The main character in Parable of the Sower has an idea that is going to save them. Like, this is what she's going to, this is her belief. This is the truth that she's picking up from her environment. And it's that you can direct your destiny in essence, right? She says it much more interestingly, but that's kind of what she's talking about here in art. So when you look at a painting, you can sort of passively absorb it, or you can engage with it. And when you engage, actively contract, expand, direct your attention. So this is an exercise in attention, which is what the chapter is called. And I thought that was really cool because it's like the religion Parable of the Sower that they're working their way up to. And here she's talking about it in present day with art. That is neat. Page 112. So let's see. Make unconscious patterns. So this was just a really cool way of phrasing something. So there's something called the Prejudice Lab, which instead of confronting people and calling them racists, it tries to get the unconscious feelings brought up to the surface so that people can hear their inner thoughts that they're not really paying attention to. And the way that she phrased it is, um, Nordell writes that while many other psychology experiments treat bias as a condition to be adjusted, Divines treats it as a behavior, aiming simply to make unconscious patterns conscious and intentional. So the prejudice lab was the attentional key that brought racist thought and behavior to consciousness. Because it's much harder to evaluate something and consider something objectively if it's like buried deep and hidden underneath other thoughts. So this is about bringing it out and saying, oh, this is why I responded that way. Huh. Does that make sense in this day and age? Is that something that I want to encourage? So I thought that was really useful. And something that would be probably what a sensitive soul would want to do in this space as a task. Like they would be really good at figuring out how to do that and have like a gentle examination. So again, biblioserendipity. I just like when those things happen. Page 116 to 17. The next piece I thought was really interesting was about ethical persuasion. So before there was the whole talk about AI, like 6-7 years ago when she was writing this book, it was a talk about algorithms and how the apps are manipulating us and what is ethical and what is not. That's what they are calling ethical persuasion. People are writing articles about it in academic journals, etc. And one of the people she cites is writing an article about, well, it is a fait accompli that our attention is going to be hijacked. There's a market for it. It's going to be sold, but like doesn't question that premise. She says we need to be ethical about it, but the author of this book is saying, how about we question that premise? How about we not give up before it started? And to me, that was like the last chapter when she talked about Bartleby, who rejects the premise of the question and answering, the rejection of the question. So I thought that was really neat too. That's one of the times where like from chapter to chapter, she does have threads that go through. So that was really neat. This argument of the academic article writer takes a few important things for granted. Ethical persuasion means persuading the user to do something that is good for them, using, quote, harmonious designs that continuously empower us instead of distracting and frustrating us, end quote. Reading this, I can't help but ask, empower me to do what? Good for me according to whom? And according to what standards? Happiness, productivity? These are the same standards that Fraser uses when designing Walden 2. Which is a fictional land where people had their thoughts thought for them, basically. The idea that I've already lost the battle of attention doesn't sit right with me. And I was like, yes. So I really liked that, and I picked up on that this time because I was slowly reading it, which is really nice. I like that opportunity. Ooh, what is Activation August? I like that you've added it to your August TBR, but tell me what that readathon is. Who's it run by? I haven't heard of this one. Esther, hello, dropping a like and hi while at work. Hello, busy worker bee. Thank you for coming in for a moment. Jack says, I need to read some Butler for the reading challenge that I'm doing. Can't remember the exact book though. Well, I can definitely recommend Parable of the Sower, and Kindred is next on my hit list, shall we say. Okay, so a couple more points. We've got 119. Something that I really liked was a quote. I think about the same thing about the apps and the algorithm. And they're admitting that it's a losing battle. There's a market for your attention already, and we can't actually keep it. Jenny Odell says, I am personally unsatisfied with untrained attention, which flickers from one new thing to the next, not only because it is a shallow experience or because it is an expression of habit rather than will. We do like to think about will, but because it gives me less access to my own human experience. So, to me, just like in the prejudice lab where you have unexamined biases that you haven't unearthed and considered, this is sort of a similar thing. If people are manipulating you through unseen attention habits, like looking at your phone first thing in the morning, or scrolling until you hit a certain type of video and then you go off the app or something like this, whatever it is, having the knowledge of why your attention is doing what it's doing, whether it's being absorbed or it's being distracted and going off to a new thing. To me, that sounds like knowledge is power kind of situation. And if you know how you work, just like with your body, with your attention and mind, it's the same thing. It gives you more access to your own human experience. So I really liked that. That made me think for a while because I didn't understand it at first, and then I put it down as like a positive point to take away. Two more. Let's see, 121. We're talking about subjectivity. So in this little piece that I picked out, is this a French person? Who is it? No, it's William James. Okay, so historical era comes back to bite us, right? So William James, brother of Henry James, author, was I think psychologist / philosopher, right? In 1890, he wrote this book that's all about like mind things. Some of it is way sketchy. Some of it is like the foundation of things we know now. And he says, millions of items of the outward order are present to my senses, which never properly enter into my experience. Why? Because they have no interest for me. My experience is what I agree to attend to. So basically he's saying there's like millions of things happening in the world at any given moment. And what I attend to is willpower, right? It's my attention going, oh, you like these types of things. I'm going to notify you of these things only and ignore the rest. Only those items which I notice shape my mind. So that's choosing actively. Without selective interest, experience is an utter chaos. Yes. Interest alone gives accent and emphasis, light and shade, background and foreground, intelligible perspective, in a word. It varies in every creature, but without it, the consciousness of every creature would be a gray, chaotic indiscriminateness, impossible for us even to conceive. Now, what I wrote next to this is that it sounds kind of like the tree in the woods argument. Like everyone has this gray, millions of things happening at once in every moment, sort of chaos. But like, does it really exist if you haven't interpreted it consciously? Yes, of course it does. I think. I'm not a philosopher. But with the tree in the woods argument, if no one is there to sense it, did it really fall? Yes, of course it did. But like, there's no ricochet. There's no receiving of the sound of it falling. So anyway, philosophical argument, and I just thought, oh, does this have implications on subjectivity? I don't know very much about William James. I haven't read any of his philosophical works. So this is just like a little soundbite that Jenny Odell is pulling out. And I don't know. I think in my American culture, objectivity is definitely put up on a pedestal. Subjectivity is definitely vilified, right? But in many areas of the world, experience, industry, subjectivity is just the fact, right? You can't have the same opinion, you can't have the same experience, your senses are giving you different information, etc. So it's reality and you have to sort of accept it and build your responses to life based on that. So that is something I'll be sort of trickling down, considering in the future. And then the last point from this book, it's a really fun one. I think I may have shared this a long time ago, but so Jenny Odell uses bird watching as one of her like attention keys, like one of the things that she used to do. And then she sort of got more into it and she was like, whoa, something is really different when I pay attention to it. And so with that little key, she sort of got more into this social science of observing. And she has another example besides birds that is a creek. So she talks about this creek near the school where she went to kindergarten. Again, I searched my memory where it showed up only once. When I was 5, the creek was the place that you couldn't get your ball back from if it went over the fence at the edge of the schoolyard. And I was like, "Oh, I so much sympathize with this." So I had, um, looked at the Google Maps for my hometown recently and saw that on my walks, like, there's multiple places where there are creeks, and I was like, "How many creeks are there? Is this all the same creek?" Because it had a similar I've never looked at the hole, I've only seen it as the place where you couldn't get your ball back, right? And that relates to another piece in this chapter, I think. That's philosophy. That's talking about an I-it relationship versus an I-thou relationship. She uses it with the paintings. The original person uses it with something else. But to me, this is a subjectivity, objectivity thing again. The creek was an it to her when she was a kid, right? I am the mover and shaker. It is the thing that only comes into my memory once and for this specific purpose. I don't know how it exists outside of that. Then when she went back, she looked at, oh, now I understand why there's all those like gray white bags. They're for flood control. Now I understand it goes underground. I know how the city does that. Now I understand it connects up here and et cetera, et cetera. You know, you have a greater understanding of the whole working of its parts. Um, I must have looked at the creek or walked or driven past it. It was like the unseen stimuli in Arian Mack and Irvin Rock's vision experiments, seen but not noticed. So the other way of looking at things besides I it, the like I am the center of the universe, is I thou. And someone earlier was talking about how someone confronts a tree with this approach, which is I, mover and shaker, and thou. Thou indicates like another mover and shaker. You can't make that thing a thing. It's not an object, it's its own subject. And you kind of are admitting or allowing for that subject's different reality. And I really like that, especially for a tree, because I'm a tree lover. So for this creek, it was like her realizing, oh, when I was a kid, I had an I-it relationship with the creek. It was just there on the edge of my awareness. And now when I go back, I can realize it's part of a whole system. It affects my life. It's its own living, changing thing. It's a vow. And I just thought that was really cool. So this chapter 4 was about exercises in attention, meaning how do you strengthen your mental muscles to take back your attention, to make it a willful, intentional, conscious exercise rather than something that is going on below the level of consciousness that other people are manipulating without your consent. So I thought that was really valuable. And again, range of examples, some of which I could access, some of which I could not, because I'm not an art person. But if you're an art person, you might find this even more rich of a vein of wisdom. So continuing to read that, continuing to get a lot out of it. So thank you to Grace. Okay. Now back to the mood reads. Let me just ask this in preparation because I'm going to remind you guys of any upcoming events if anyone wants to share in the chat. Jim, if you have Activation August to share. I know there's Garb August. I know several other August readathons have popped up since I announced Agitation August. What are you gonna do, right? Hopefully people can double dip or join both or more than one or just be casual about it, right? Drop in for a few and enjoy the ones you're more interested in. So the mood reads for this Wednesday wrap up. The first one I have is a Tarquin Hall. I want to say Quentin. It's Tarquin. Quinn. It's like a reverse. The Case of the Deadly Butter Chicken by Tarquin Hall. Sorry, the series is called the Vish Puri Mystery. So this is the second in the series that I've read. It's the third in the series. I missed the first one, but I read the second, and then this is the third. And it's a detective in modern day Delhi. He is middle class. He's got a big family. He's got a lot of traditions. He has a interfering a mother in his cases, and it's really, really interesting. In this series, we have the author putting down a lot of cultural signifiers that I'm not familiar with, right? A lot of things I've never been to India. I don't know the culture very well. But he puts in things like slang, like jokes, like nouveau riche type understandings or like little hints as to someoe's background based on how they're perceived. And I find that really fascinating. It's kind of like Cranford. Like if you're a that may be an odd comparison. But you know, Cranford is so delightful because you get to know a small town where everyone knows each other and some small thing is a huge overstep and everyone talks about it and there's buzz, right? Delhi is huge in comparison, but there's all these little villages and little connections that allow you to get that same feeling of like this family, this is how it operates, and oh, he overstepped and she's gonna say this, um and added to that, there is a historical component because in this book, the deadly butter chicken relates to a much older historical event. And I won't spoil it, except to say that I found it something that, you know, was on the edge of my consciousness. I might have studied before, but I definitely didn't know it in this amount of detail. And it was neat to see it portrayed in a fictional, envisioned memory. So that was really neat and highly recommend. Great series for humor, for dialogue, for action. It's really great. And the characters are great. So mystery lovers, definitely recommend. Let's see if there's anything I missed. Cultural, funny, diverse within mystery and history. Yes. Okay. So that's a 5-star. The next mood read was one I picked up from a little free library, and it's a very small book. It's not your normal size. It's called This is Shanghai, the World's Most Populous City by Alexander Barrett. And I picked this up very excited because when I first moved to Portland, there was a book like this called This is Portland, the City You've Been Told You'll Like. And I just thought it was really funny. There's a dry wit, same author. There's apparently a series. There's also a San Francisco one and Shanghai. So there's only 3 in the series because it's just where he's lived. But part of what I really liked about the Portland one was it was a lot of inside jokes that now that I lived here, I could understand and be like, oh yeah, that's sort of true still or not. And yeah, it's still got that dry wit about things in Shanghai. He's still appreciating like some deeper things, like the deeper, not trends, but like the river of experience. What is it like to be in a place that is so populous, so crowded? How have the people melded? How is the relationship with China? How is the, you know, colonial sort of legacy playing out? What is this development stuff? And how is it to be in this ghost town in some places? A lot of things are really interesting at the modern development of Shanghai, which I've never considered or visited either. But with that, a person who picks up from business in California and heads out to Shanghai and then offers opinions on it just gave me a little bit of a weird feeling because I don't have anything to balance it out with, not having been there. So, I mean, it's funny. It's like simply illustrated and pretty upbeat, positive. There's only a few things that are like, not critiques, just like pointing out the things that are not the best. So I will put this right back in a little free library, and I'm glad that I read it and know a little bit more about Shanghai. Did I have anything else to say about that? The facile humor felt like it needed more context in a few cases, but 3.5 stars, still like fun, and people who have been there and know it may enjoy it more, is what my point is. All right, next on mood reading, we've got some comfort reads because we're getting a lot of heavy topics. I'll go over current reads, which are a bit heavier. But, you know, Grace Burrows, one of my favorite romance authors. This is Lady Violet Goes for a Gallop. This is a historical mystery series with romance in it. And I think the covers are pretty terribly dated. But I love her writing. I love her characters. And I just figured out this, I mean, I knew this before, but like I just figured out, oh, her 2 main male characters are like mashups of each other. They're both like French and Scottish hybrids. Interesting. Interesting to know what works for me. So if I ever find one of those in the wild from the Regency, I will snap him right up. But just a good romance. It's someone who goes into a neighborhood and there's a kidnapping or a murder, but they don't have a body and someone's been accused, and like it's the neighborhood conspiring, but is it really? There's just too many possibilities. So the mystery is pretty low level, but the bigger issue is something that goes along through the whole series, and it's how she deals with a personal issue and figures out what she's going to do with her life, which relate. Lady Violet goes for a gallop. I loved it. Hi, Eva. Hello, hello. Okay, this is an upcoming event. Let me start it. I'm going to come back to that. I'll keep an eye open. Indie reads. Okay, we'll get back to that at the end to remind people in that section, but I'm going to go ahead and finish my mood reading reviews. So Grace Burroughs, excellent. We've got a Deanna Raybourn, who's also a historical fiction, historical romance. It depends. There's sort of a spectrum, but this is A Spear of Summer Grass. And this is a book I picked up from the library, you can tell with the barcode, because it was on Hot Summer Reads. I just an impulse grab, of course, when I was returning another book. And I loved the cover. So it's obviously going to be in Africa. That's an African savannah. And it's in the 1920s, which you can tell by the costume. And this cover does not steer you wrong. It is the 1920s. It is in Africa. Sometimes the covers are just so wrong. And when you make a judgment based on the cover, that means you're in trouble. But this one, true to form, they got a good cover designer. I love Deanna Raybourn. She's called, what do we call her? Queen? She's got like a nickname in social media because she owned Twitter, and it's so sad to see that Twitter is just a graveyard of bots now because she was super funny and like ruled the Twitter airwaves, right? So I don't know what she's doing now with social media, but she's very funny, like very smart. And this is why, because she's done so much research. She knows all her history. She knows like the character things that will keep you hooked. This is a bad girl that is banished from Paris to, recover from scandal. And she lands in somewhere in Kenya, which is a family member's rundown colonial outpost in the 20s. And she meets a lot of interesting people there. And it does use one of my less liked tropes, which I won't reveal because it's kind of a spoiler, but it's just a side thing. And the main plot is the relationship. So there's a mystery in there, but the main plot is the relationship. So she does that really well. And there's one of those like, it's kind of like Casablanca at the end where you're on tenterhooks until the last minute and they make a decision and you're like, oh, it's a romance after all. So yeah, Spear of Summer Grass. This is from quite a while ago. It's a backlist. So I was happy to find it because some of hers are out of print. 2013, so like 12 years ago. But her mystery series, she's got like a modern elderly protagonist detective series going on now. Kills Well with Others, I think, is her. And Thursday Murder Club is the only one of those I've read besides the one with the lady on the motorcycle in Ukraine. But I just like her historical so much. I don't want to come to the present day. What else? And there's a little bit of white savior in this, but I mean, you're talking about a colonial power in Kenya while it was not yet free. And so there's going to be some of that just as part of the relationship with like the native population and the white settlers. So it was played down and I was okay with it. But if that really is an issue for you, it is in there. So, it's a white girl in Africa. What are you going to do? Okay, last one of the mood reads. This is one I picked up. I used very recently, and I'm actually getting to it. And I'm timely fashion. Who knew? I'm trying to clear out books that I don't think I will keep forever. It's for a secret reason. It's for the secret project, and there will be a vlog going up this Friday if I get on it, for those people who are members of the channel or paying patrons over on Patreon. So check that out if you're interested. But The Candid Life of Meena Dave by Namrata Patel. This is a modern day set in Boston. sort of a fantasy, right? Because she inherits an apartment with no strings and has to figure out why this woman has given her an apartment in the Back Bay, which fantasy, right? But then we get a little bit into like why the author chose this house, and the house is pretty interesting. So it's based on the fact that in the 1920s and 30s there was a influx of Indian engineers going to school at MIT, and some of them went back to help their country go into independence in 1947, but some of them stayed in Boston. And so there's a really early Indian immigrant population, not just, the modern waves of IT and such. And so this goes into, I wouldn't say assimilated population, but people who have been in America a long time and managed dual identities and have made their own community, but they're in an American context. So it was just interesting to see that perspective. So it was neat. I love the cover. It's very rom-com-y. I was a little annoyed at the beginning because how many times can you get tangled up in the leash of someone else's dog? And I'm like, come on, come on. So if you get annoyed with like endings of chapters like that, then that will annoy you too. But the overall story is pretty smooth, and she does find out why, even though there's a red herring, and there is someone else in the building who she finds really helpful. So it is a romance. They help each other, I would say, in terms of identity and belonging and getting through really crisis times and hard personal truths. So with that in mind, it's sort of like a rom-com with a bit of heart. So really like that, and pretty cover. So did I miss anything for that one? It's a sly mystery. There is some corniness in this rom-com, but overall satisfying. It's also a little slow. So yeah, that's what I would put down for that. So that's 9 books. And that's not even the other 2 that I finished yesterday that weren't on the thumbnail, because I'm saving those. Current reads that I'm excited about, another used bargain from like the 80s. It's a Cornish set romance, Polsinny Harbor by Mary Pierce. I just started it yesterday. I'm like 60% through. Steering by Starlight by Martha Beck. I'm taking this a little bit slower. It's a nonfiction. It's a self-help, sort of, and it's really funny. And this one I'm reading to be able to speak with Elaine at Cobalt Dragon during Agitation August. So it's already yielding benefits. I'll just say that. I'm really enjoying it. And I've been out of the self-help space for a while. So those are the 2 that I'll probably be working on the most for the next couple days. Oh, look, she just popped in. She knew I was going to like name drop right there. Hey, Elaine. Happy Wednesday. I hope you guys can't hear the endless sawing and drilling outside. I'm really over it. Okay. So now that we got our 9 book reviews done and our 1 chapter for the slow readathon done, which is a lot, I will just conclude with upcoming events. So Ven says Kevin Tolles is doing an Indie August. Yay! With Nicole's Bookish Nook co-hosting, which I am looking forward to. I'm looking forward to finding more amazing indie reads. And Eva says, yeah, I'll keep an eye open for you. Good about finding indie reads. Very good. And then I would just say did I put it in a banner? Yes, I did. Next Sunday, you can join us for a chat with a Portland indie bookstore owner, my lovely friend, Allie Shaw. We're going to talk about truth and reconciliation for the climate, but it's going to be in the context of being a small business owner and editor, writer, lover of books. So on the same level here, hopefully we'll be able to talk about some feelings and feel better about the whole, what are we doing, right? So hopefully that will intrigue some of you as well. And that's it for us today. Yeah. I am, like I said, really tired of all the noise outside. So instead of going early to the gym before the stream, I saved that early time for some enjoyment of the quiet. I mean, there's still traffic, but there was also sprinklers. There was also a breeze. There's also some birds. So I enjoyed that this morning while I was sort of half asleep and had the door open. And then while they're still drilling and sawing and all goodness knows, I will go to the gym and then scamper off for some fun this afternoon outside to stay away because they are never finished. They'll never be finished. Anyway, that is my first world problem. Thank you for watching, whether it's live or on the replay. Let me know if you've read any of these books, have opinions about them, or want to read them, or are interested in any of the Agitation August guests and want to attend their talk. You can repeat the time that they will be on in the comments below if you want to help your fellow watchers. So that's all. Diversify that reading shelf. Thank you for being here, everybody. Take care of yourselves, and I'll talk to you again soon. Thanks, JC. Bye.